The alarm bells rang through the Terran command station as Captain Ross Martinez walked quickly to the bridge. His boots made loud sounds on the metal floor as he moved past busy crew members who were running to their stations. The main screen showed nothing but empty space and stars, but something was wrong because the communication officer looked worried. "What do we have, Lieutenant Webb?" Martinez asked as he took his place in the captain's chair. The young officer turned around with a pale face and pressed some buttons on her control panel. "Sir, we received a distress signal from deep space about 30 minutes ago. The computer is still trying to translate it, but the message is clear enough. Someone out there needs help badly," Webb said while bringing up the audio file on the main speakers. The bridge became quiet as the alien voice filled the room. Even with the universal translator working hard to make sense of the words, everyone could hear the fear and desperation in the speaker's voice. The message kept repeating the same basic words over and over again, asking for help and giving coordinates to their location. Commander Elena Vasquez came up to stand next to Martinez and looked at the star chart that appeared on the main screen. "Captain, the signal came from the Kepler 442 system. That place is far from here, and we have never sent any ships there before. It would take our fastest ships almost 2 weeks to reach that location." Martinez nodded slowly as he studied the information on his screens. 3 months had passed since humans first made contact with the Galactic Federation, and the other alien races had been surprised to learn about Earth. Most planets in the galaxy were peaceful worlds where life was easy and comfortable, but Earth was different. Earth was what the aliens called a Class 12. Death world where everything tried to kill everything else every single day. "Do we know anything about who sent this message?" Martinez asked while looking at the data that kept coming in from their deep space sensors. The communication systems were picking up more information about the signal and where it came from. Webb worked at her station for several minutes before she had an answer. "Sir, the signal appears to come from a species called the Valonians. According to our Federation databases, they are a peaceful race that specializes in art and science. They have never been involved in any wars or conflicts with other species. That makes this even more interesting," Vasquez said while crossing her arms. "If someone is attacking a peaceful species like the Valonians, then we might be dealing with something very dangerous out there." Martinez stood up from his chair and walked to the large window that showed the stars outside. For the past 3 months, the Federation had been very careful about letting humans participate in galactic affairs. Most alien species thought humans were too violent and aggressive to be trusted with important responsibilities. The Federation Council had specifically asked Earth to limit their military activities and to avoid getting involved in conflicts between other species. "Sir, I am detecting some unusual energy readings in that area of space," Webb said suddenly while looking at her sensors with a confused expression. "The computer cannot identify what type of energy this is, but it appears to be very powerful, and it seems to be moving between different star systems." The bridge crew looked at each other with worried faces because energy signatures that could move between star systems usually meant something very big and very dangerous was happening. Martinez felt the weight of command on his shoulders as he realized that this distress call might be more serious than they first thought. "Commander Vasquez, prepare the fleet for immediate departure," Martinez ordered while turning back to face his crew. "I want every available ship ready for combat operations within the next 4 hours. This includes our newest destroyers and the experimental cruisers from the Jupiter shipyards." Vasquez looked surprised by the order because preparing the entire fleet was a big decision that would require approval from Earth Command. "Sir, the Federation Council specifically requested that we avoid large military deployments without their permission. If we send the entire fleet without asking them first, it could cause diplomatic problems." Martinez walked back to his captain's chair and sat down while thinking about the situation. The Federation had been treating humans like children ever since first contact because they thought Earth was too dangerous and humans were too primitive to understand galactic politics. But Martinez knew that when someone sent a distress signal, you responded immediately without asking permission from politicians. "Commander, when someone is in trouble and asks for help, we help them. That is what humans do, and that is what makes "You is different from the rest of the galaxy," Martinez said firmly while looking at his crew. "Besides, I have a feeling that we are about to show the Federation exactly why they should have accepted our offer to help protect the galaxy from the beginning." The main hangar bay doors began to open as ships throughout the solar system received their orders to prepare for departure. 37 human warships started their engines and began moving toward the assembly point near Mars. Each ship was designed and built for war because humans had learned over thousands of years that sometimes violence was the only way to protect innocent people. The Federation had called human military technology primitive and barbaric, but they had never seen it in action against a real enemy. Human ships were faster than most alien vessels, and their weapons were designed to fight against the most dangerous predators that Earth could produce. Every human warship was like a piece of Earth itself, deadly and dangerous and completely unwilling to give up. "All ships report ready for hyperspace jump," the navigation officer announced as the fleet formed up in perfect formation. The sight of 37 human warships preparing for battle was something that the galaxy had never seen before. Martinez looked at the star chart one more time and thought about what they might find when they reached the Kepler 442 system. Whatever was attacking the Valonians was powerful enough to make an entire species send out desperate calls for help across the galaxy. But humans had survived on the most dangerous planet in known space, and they had learned that sometimes the best defense was a good offense. "All ships, this is Captain Martinez," he said into the fleet communication system. "We are heading into unknown space to help people who are in trouble. We do not know what we will find there, but we know why we are going. Someone needs help, and we are going to help them because that is what humans do." The fleet jumped into hyperspace and disappeared from the solar system, leaving behind only the faint glow of their engines. In 2 weeks they would arrive at the Kepler 442 system and discover something that would change the galaxy forever. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, and what they found made everyone on the bridge stop talking and stare at the main screen with shock and horror. Captain Martinez gripped the arms of his chair as the sensors began to paint a picture of destruction that was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. "My God, what happened here?" whispered Dr. James Carter, who was the fleet's chief scientist and expert on alien life forms. He was looking at his instruments with disbelief as the data kept coming in from the ship's powerful sensors. Where 3 beautiful planets should have been orbiting around a healthy yellow star, there was now only debris and floating chunks of rock and metal. But this was not the result of some natural disaster or asteroid impact, because something was moving through the wreckage and it was alive. Massive creatures floated through space, like giant sea animals swimming through an ocean of stars. Each one was the size of a small moon, and their bodies pulsed with strange lights that made patterns across their dark surfaces. There were dozens of these things moving slowly through the system, and they appeared to be feeding on the remains of what had once been a thriving civilization. "Contact from the surface of the 3rd planet," announced Communications Officer Lisa Park while working frantically at her station. "The signal is very weak, but there are definitely survivors down. They're trying to reach us." The transmission came through filled with static and interference, but the voice was clear enough to understand. It was an alien speaking in a language that the computer could translate, and the desperation in the speaker's voice made it clear that time was running out. "Human vessels, this is Counselor Thresh of the Valonian Republic. We thought no one would answer our call for help. The Devourers arrived in our system 3 days ago, and our entire defense fleet was destroyed in less than 1 hour. Most of our people are dead, but some of us are still hiding in underground shelters." Martinez leaned forward in his chair and activated the communication system. "Counselor Thresh, this is Captain Martinez of the Terran fleet. We received your distress signal, and we are here to help you. Can you tell us anything about these creatures and where they came from?" There was a long pause before Thresh answered, and when he spoke again, his voice was filled with fear and exhaustion. "Captain, these things are not from our galaxy. They travel through space, consuming everything in their path, and our weapons had no effect on them at all. They seem to be able to adapt to any type of energy we used against them. Commander. Vasquez was studying the tactical display and the information that the ship's computers were gathering about the strange creatures. Captain, I am reading massive energy buildups inside those things. It looks like they are preparing to do something, and whatever it is requires a lot of power. Through the bridge windows, the crew could see the creatures beginning to move in a coordinated pattern toward the system's star. Long tentacles or arms made of some kind of living material stretched out from their bodies and reached toward the nuclear furnace that had provided light and heat for this system for billions of years. Sir, I am detecting something very unusual. About these creatures, Lieutenant Webb called out from her science station while running scans on the alien forms. They are not purely biological life forms. My instruments show that they have cybernetic components integrated into their organic structure. Someone or something engineered these things. Martinez felt a cold chill run down his spine as he realized what Webb was telling him. These creatures were not some kind of natural predator that had evolved on some distant world. They were weapons that had been created by an intelligence for the specific purpose of destroying other civilizations. Engineered by who, Martinez asked while hoping that Webb might have more information in her sensor readings. The implications of artificially created creatures this powerful were frightening to consider. Unknown, sir, but there is something else that you need to know, Webb continued while her face became even more worried. Long-range sensors are detecting similar energy signatures in 17 other star systems throughout this region of the galaxy. This attack on the Valonians is not an isolated incident. The bridge became completely silent except for the humming of the ship's engines and life support systems as everyone realized what this meant. Somewhere in the depths of space, an unknown intelligence was systematically destroying entire civilizations using these monstrous creatures as weapons of mass destruction. Captain, if the pattern continues and these things keep moving through inhabited systems, then Earth's solar system is directly in their projected path, Vasquez said quietly while studying the star charts and the movement patterns of the energy signatures. Martinez stood up from his chair and walked to the tactical display to get a better look at what they were facing. Each creature was enormous and appeared to be capable of destroying entire planets by itself. The Valonian fleet had been destroyed in less than an hour, and the Valonians were known to have advanced technology and powerful warships. All ships, battle stations, Martinez ordered over the fleet communication system. Prepare for combat operations and charge all weapon systems to full power. Whatever these things are, they are about to learn what happens when they threaten innocent people. The 37 human warships spread out into attack formation as their crews prepared for battle. Every ship began charging its weapons and raising its defensive shields while the captains studied the tactical information about their enormous opponents. Sir, the creatures have detected our presence and they are beginning to turn toward us, Hawk announced while monitoring the communication frequencies. I think they see us as a threat to their feeding operation. The largest of the creatures slowly rotated its massive bulk until it was facing the human fleet. Lights began to pulse across its surface in complex patterns, and something that looked like weapon ports began to open along its sides. Whatever these things were, they were definitely not peaceful and they were preparing to attack. Distance to the lead creature, Martinez asked while watching the tactical display show the enemy's movements. The thing was so large that it would take several minutes for it to complete its turn, but when it did, the human fleet would be facing something that could probably destroy planets. 40,000 kilometers and closing slowly, reported the navigation officer. The creature appears to be moving under its own power, but I cannot detect any kind of engine or propulsion system. Martinez looked at his crew and realized that they were about to face something that no human had ever encountered before. But humans had survived and prospered on Earth, precisely because they had learned to fight and defeat creatures that were bigger and stronger than they were. This is what we came here for, Martinez said to his bridge crew. Let's show these things that humans do not run away from a fight. The human fleet moved into defensive positions around the dying planet as the massive creatures turned. their attention away from the star and toward the newcomers. On the surface of what remained of the Villonian homeworld, Counselor Thresh and his aide Kira watched through the reinforced windows of their underground shelter as humanity prepared to face an enemy that had destroyed their entire civilization in a matter of hours. Their ships looked so small compared to those monsters, Kira observed while pressing her face against the thick glass that protected them from the poisoned atmosphere outside. How can they possibly hope to succeed where our mighty dreadnought fleet failed so completely, above them in the cold vacuum of space? Captain Martinez studied the tactical display as his ship's artificial intelligence systems worked to analyze the enemy creatures. Each monster was a masterpiece of biological and mechanical engineering that could repair itself and adapt to different types of attacks, while wielding weapons powerful enough to crack planets open like eggs. Captain, I am detecting massive electromagnetic build-ups in the lead creature, called out Weapons Officer Commander Jake Thompson while monitoring his instruments carefully. Whatever it is preparing to do requires an enormous amount of energy, and it appears to be targeting our position. All ships evasive maneuvers now, Martinez ordered immediately while gripping his chair as the ship began to move. Let's see what we are dealing with here and how powerful these things really are. The lead creature opened what looked like a mouth in its front section and unleashed a beam of pure energy that was bright enough to blind anyone looking directly at it. The beam contained enough power to vaporize a small moon, and it was aimed directly at the center of the human formation where several ships were flying close together, the human ships scattered in all directions like a school of fish avoiding a predator as their engines screamed with maximum power. The pilots pushed their vessels beyond their normal design limits as they tried to avoid the deadly energy beam that could destroy them instantly. One frigate called the Defiant was not quite fast enough to get out of the way completely. The energy beam caught the ship across its rear section, and for a moment it looked like the vessel would be completely destroyed by the massive amount of power hitting its hull, but instead of disintegrating into a cloud of metal and plasma, the Defiant's hull began to glow with a strange blue light. The ship's experimental armor plating, which was based on the defensive mechanisms of Earth's most dangerous predators, was actually absorbing the energy and redirecting it away from the ship's vital systems. Direct hit on the Defiant, reported Lieutenant Park while checking the damage reports coming in from the other ship. Hull integrity is holding at 97%, and all systems are still operational. The bridge crew looked at each other with amazement because their armor had not only survived a planet-killing energy blast but had barely been damaged by it. The defensive systems that human engineers had developed were working exactly as designed. Return fire immediately, Martinez ordered while feeling confident for the first time since arriving in the system. All ships target the lead creature's central mass with everything we have available. The human fleet opened fire with every weapon they carried, including kinetic rounds that traveled at significant fractions of light speed and plasma cannons that could melt asteroid belts in seconds. Experimental weapons that existed only in the deepest military research facilities added their firepower to the devastating barrage. The creature's bio-cybernetic hull began to change and adapt as the incoming fire struck its surface. The thing's skin shifted and morphed, trying to deflect the different types of energy and projectiles that the humans were throwing at it. But the humans had learned important lessons from centuries of warfare against Earth's relentless and adaptable ecosystem. Switch to rotating frequencies and projectile types, Commander Thompson called out to the other ships in the fleet. Do not let this thing adapt to our weapon systems. The human weapons began cycling through different energy patterns and ammunition types every few seconds to prevent the creature from developing effective defenses against any one type of attack. Chunks of organic and mechanical matter began breaking away from the monster's hull as the relentless barrage continued without pause on the planet's surface. Counselor Thresh watched the battle with growing amazement as the humans pressed their attack against an enemy that had seemed completely invincible just hours before. They are not just fighting it, he whispered to Kira while staring at the lights flashing across the sky above them. They are actually winning. The creature's bioluminescent patterns shifted from the steady pulse. They had shown before to rapid flashing sequences that seemed to indicate pain or distress. More pieces of its hull broke away and floated into space. As the human weapons continued their rotating assault pattern, but in the depths of space around them, the other creatures were beginning to move and respond to what was happening to their companion. Their own light patterns began to shift and change to match those of the creature under attack, and their movements became more coordinated and purposeful. "Sir, I am detecting increased activity from the other creatures in the system," Webb announced, while studying her sensor readings with growing concern. "They appear to be communicating with each other and moving into some kind of formation." Martinez watched the tactical display as more than a dozen massive creatures began to converge on the human fleet's position. Each one was pulsing with the same angry red lights, and they were moving faster than anything that large should have been able to move. "Captain, those things are definitely working together," Dr. Carter called out from his science station, while analyzing the biological data streaming in from the sensors. "This level of coordination suggests some kind of shared intelligence or communication system that connects all of them." The implications of what Dr. Carter was suggesting were frightening to consider, because it meant that the creatures were not just individual predators but components of some larger organism or intelligence. Every tactic the humans used and every weakness they discovered would be immediately shared among all the creatures in the system. "All ships prepare for multiple targets," Martinez ordered while watching more creatures approach their position. "It looks like we got their attention and now they want to finish this fight quickly." The battle was about to become much more complicated as the human fleet found itself outnumbered by enemies that could adapt to their weapons and coordinate their attacks. But Martinez knew that humans had survived on Earth not by being the strongest or fastest predators, but by being the smartest and most adaptable. "This is what we trained for," he announced to his crew while the enemy closed in around them. "Let's show these things why Earth is called a death world." The battle raged across the Kepler 442 system as more creatures joined the fight against the human fleet. What had started as a rescue mission was quickly becoming the largest space battle that anyone in the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Martinez held tightly to his command chair as the massive alien forms pressed their coordinated attack against his ships. "Status report now," he shouted over the noise of weapons fire and emergency alarms that were sounding throughout the bridge. The ship shook violently as energy beams passed close to the hull and the lights flickered from the electromagnetic interference. "3 ships have taken damage but no casualties reported yet," Commander Vasquez called back while monitoring the fleet status displays. "The creatures are learning from our tactics much faster than we anticipated, and they are adapting their defenses accordingly." On the main screen, the creatures had begun to move with frightening coordination and precision. They no longer attacked as individuals, but worked together like fingers on a hand responding to commands from a single mind. Dr. Carter, who was monitoring the biological readings from his science station, made a discovery that changed everything. "Captain, these are not separate individual creatures," he announced while studying the data streaming in from the ship's sensors. "They are all components of a single massive organism that spans multiple star systems. We are fighting against a hive mind." The implications were staggering because if Dr. Carter was correct, then every creature in the galaxy was connected and sharing information instantly across impossible distances. Every weapon the humans used and every tactic they employed would be immediately known to the entire swarm, no matter how far apart they were. "Sir, I am detecting a massive energy surge from the creature we damaged earlier," Lieutenant Webb called out while watching her instruments with growing alarm. "It appears to be healing itself using some kind of advanced regeneration process." Through the bridge windows, the crew watched in horror as the wounded creature's hull began to repair itself. Biomechanical tentacles reached out to collect the floating debris from the battle and somehow incorporated the material into the creature's own structure. Within minutes, the damage was completely gone and the thing looked as healthy as when they first encountered it. "They are not just adapting to our weapons," Dr. Carter realized while reviewing more data from the ongoing battle. They are actually evolving and becoming stronger with every attack we make against them. The damage we inflict is being used to improve their defenses. Captain Martinez felt the enormous weight of command pressing down on his shoulders as he realized that the conventional approach was not working. These creatures were beyond anything that the galaxy had ever encountered before, and they seemed to be getting more powerful with each passing moment. All ships cease fire immediately, Martinez ordered while making a decision that surprised everyone on the bridge. The weapons stopped firing and the fleet hung motionless in space while the creatures continued to move closer. "Sir, what are you doing?" Commander Vasquez asked with concern in her voice. "If we stop fighting, they will destroy us all. They adapt to our weapons and they learn from our tactics and they heal from the damage we cause," Martinez explained while thinking through the problem like the experienced military commander he was. "So we need to try something completely different that they cannot adapt to or learn from." He turned to the communications officer and made another decision that would either save them all or get them killed. "Park, open a channel to the surface. I need to speak with Counselor Thresh immediately about something very important." The alien leader's voice came through the speakers filled with static and fear. "Captain Martinez, why have you stopped attacking the creatures? They are moving toward our position, and we do not have much time left before they reach the planet. Counselor, I need you to tell me everything about your star system that might be useful," Martinez said while bringing up detailed charts of the local area on his displays. "Mining operations and industrial facilities and anything else that might help us fight these things?" "I do not understand, Captain," Thresh replied with confusion obvious in his translated voice. "Our civilization has been destroyed, and most of our technology is in ruins. What could we possibly have that would be useful against creatures this powerful? Counselor, human beings do not win battles only with superior firepower," Martinez explained, while studying the system layout and looking for something that could be used as a weapon. "We win by using our environment and turning the battlefield itself into our ally. Your star system is about to become our weapon." In the depths of space, the creatures had stopped their advance and were floating motionless as if they were confused by the sudden change in human behavior. Their bioluminescent patterns flickered uncertainly while their hive mind tried to process this new development that did not match any of their previous experiences. "Captain, I am reading massive industrial installations throughout the system," Webb announced while scanning the area, "with the ship's most powerful sensors. There are asteroid mining facilities and fuel processing plants and even some kind of stellar energy collection system near the star." Martinez smiled for the first time since the battle began as he realized that the Valonians had built exactly what he needed to turn the tables on these seemingly invincible enemies. "All ships prepare for tactical maneuver. Delta 7 and target the mining facility at coordinates 779 Mark IV. A human fleet began to move again, but this time they were not attacking the creatures directly. Instead, they were heading toward a massive industrial complex that hung in space like a mechanical spider, with processing arms designed to crack open asteroids and extract valuable metals. "Sir, the creatures are following us," Vasquez reported while watching the tactical display. "They seem to think we are trying to escape, and they are moving to intercept us before we can reach the facility." "Perfect," Martinez replied while watching the enemy take the bait exactly as he had hoped they would. "That is exactly what I want them to do. Thompson, prepare the mining charges for immediate detonation on my command." The mining facility used controlled nuclear explosions to fragment large asteroids so that the valuable materials inside could be extracted more easily. But Martinez had realized that the same charges could be used for something much more destructive if they were detonated all at once. "All ships execute evasive maneuvers and get clear of the blast radius," Martinez ordered as the creatures moved into position around the mining facility while chasing the human ships. 10 seconds to detonation. The creatures found themselves surrounded by the massive processing equipment of the mining facility as they pursued their prey. For a moment they paused with their patterns flickering as their hive mind tried to understand what the humans were planning. "Fire!" Martinez shouted, and the nuclear charges that were designed to fragment asteroids exploded simultaneously. But instead of just destroying the facility, the explosions created a cascade reaction in the fusion reactor that powered the entire operation. The artificial star that provided energy for the mining complex went supernova and filled space with the fury of stellar collapse. The creatures caught in the blast radius found their adaptive abilities completely overwhelmed by destruction on a scale that rivaled the birth of galaxies. Multiple direct hits, Webb reported with excitement in her voice. 7 creatures have been completely destroyed and the others are retreating, but the victory celebration was short-lived because more tiers in space-time began to appear as additional creatures arrived from other star systems. The hive mind was calling for reinforcements and the real battle was just beginning. The victory against the first group of creatures was quickly forgotten as massive tiers in space-time opened throughout the Kepler 442 system. Captain Martinez watched with growing concern as dozens of new creatures emerged from hyperspace, each one larger and more dangerous than the ones they had just defeated. "Captain, I am detecting over 50 new contacts, Lieutenant," Webb announced while her instruments struggled to process the enormous amount of data coming from the sensors. "Each one shows evidence of evolutionary adaptations that we have never seen before." The new arrivals were clearly different from the creatures they had fought earlier. Their biomechanical hulls showed complex modifications and improvements that had been developed through countless battles across the galaxy. Every world they had consumed and every civilization they had destroyed had taught them something new about warfare. "Sir, the retreat patterns from the surviving creatures indicate they are sending tactical information to the newcomers," Dr. Carter reported while analyzing the communication. "Frequencies between the alien forms? The hive mind is sharing everything. They learned about our weapons and tactics." Commander Vasquez studied the tactical display with growing alarm as more creatures continued to arrive through the dimensional rifts. "Captain, we cannot fight them all. Even if we use every trick we know, there are just too many of them and they keep getting stronger." Martinez nodded grimly as he realized that their situation had become hopeless. The human fleet had 37 ships against an enemy that had consumed entire star systems and now had more than 60 creatures in this system alone. The odds were mathematically impossible. "Sir, we could try to retreat and warn Earth about what is coming," suggested the navigation officer while calculating possible escape routes. "If we leave now, we might be able to reach Federation space before they can catch us." "No," Martinez said firmly while standing up from his command chair. "We came here to help the Valonians and we are not leaving them to die. Besides, someone needs to send a message to this hive mind about what happens when they attack innocent people." He activated the fleet-wide communication system and spoke to every captain and crew member in the human force. "All ships, this is Captain Martinez. Today we did not just rescue the survivors of Kepler 442. We showed the galaxy that these creatures can be defeated. Every world they have consumed and every civilization they have destroyed ends here and now." The human fleet formed a defensive line between the planet and the approaching swarm of creatures. 37 ships against a force that had consumed entire galactic civilizations, but not one human vessel moved away from their position. They had come here to help and they would fight to the end. "Sir, I am detecting new hyperspace signatures," Park announced suddenly while monitoring the long-range sensors. "Multiple contacts jumping into the system, but these are not creature signatures." New ships began appearing throughout the system as more dimensional rifts opened, but these vessels were clearly artificial and built by intelligent species. Sleek Federation cruisers and blocky Klingaran battleships and dozens of other designs from across the galaxy materialized around the human fleet. "This is Admiral Korvax of the Galactic Federation," came a voice over the communication system. "We have been monitoring your battle and analyzing your tactical data, Captain Martinez. The galaxy stands with Earth today." Martinez felt a surge of hope as he realized that the Federation had finally decided to take the creature threat seriously. The battle data that his ships had been transmitting had shown the other species that the creatures could be defeated if they worked together. Admiral, we are honored by your presence, but you should know that these things adapt quickly to any tactics we use against them. Martinez replied while watching more alien ships take positions around his fleet. They learn from every attack and they get stronger with each battle. We understand, Captain Korvax answered. But we have also learned something important from watching your people fight. The creatures can adapt to energy weapons and they can evolve to counter most forms of attack, but they cannot adapt to tactics they have never encountered before. The combined fleet now numbered over 200 ships from dozens of different species, and each one brought unique weapons and fighting techniques that the creatures had never faced. The hive mind might be able to adapt to human tactics, but it would have a much harder time countering the combined military knowledge of the entire galaxy. All ships prepare for a coordinated attack, Admiral Korvax ordered as the creatures began their final assault. Use Martinez protocols and rotate weapon frequencies every 30 seconds. Do not give them time to adapt. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships used their speed and maneuverability to draw the creatures into range of the heavier Federation vessels, while smaller scout ships targeted weak points that the humans had identified. Every species contributed their best weapons and tactics to the fight. The creatures found themselves facing attacks from directions and using methods they had never encountered before. Quantum torpedoes from the Andromedans disrupted their biomechanical systems, while Centaurian plasma lances burned through their adaptive armor. Human kinetic weapons punched holes in their hulls faster than they could repair the damage. Multiple creature casualties confirmed, Webb reported with excitement as the tide of battle began to turn. Their adaptation rate cannot keep up with the variety of attacks we are using against them, but the real breakthrough came when Dr. Carter made a discovery about the hive-mind connection. Captain, I have found their weakness. The creatures communicate through quantum entanglement, but if we can disrupt that connection, they will lose coordination. Federation scientists had developed experimental quantum scramblers that could interfere with the exotic physics that the creatures use to maintain their hive mind. When the devices were activated, the creatures suddenly began acting like individual animals instead of components of a larger intelligence. They are confused and disorganized, Vasquez observed as the creatures began attacking each other instead of focusing on the combined fleet. Without the hive mind, they do not know how to work together. The final phase of the battle was swift and decisive. Cut off from their shared intelligence, the creatures became vulnerable to conventional tactics, and the combined firepower of the Galactic fleet systematically destroyed them. One by one, when the last creature was finally defeated, the communication channels erupted with cheers from every ship in the fleet. They had faced an enemy that had destroyed civilizations across the galaxy, and they had won through cooperation and determination. Captain Martinez, Admiral Korvax said over the communication system, "The Galaxy Council has asked me to formally invite Earth to join the Federation Defense Force. It seems we have much to learn from your people about warfare and tactics." Martinez smiled as he realized that humanity had finally proven itself worthy of respect from the other species in the galaxy. The Death World that had produced the most dangerous predators in known space had also produced the defenders that the galaxy needed. On the surface of the planet Counselor, Thresh and Kira emerged from their shelter to see the stars shining peacefully overhead for the first time in days. The nightmare was over, and they owed their lives to the humans who had refused to abandon them when everyone else thought the situation was hopeless. The lights in Dr. Kira's lab flickered as she studied the strange samples from the outer rim. She was the only human working at Nexus Prime, the biggest space station in the galaxy. Most aliens still felt nervous around humans, even after 50 years of peace. They called Earth a death world, a place so dangerous that it created monsters instead of normal life. Kira never understood why they were so afraid. Humans seemed normal to her. Sure, they were stronger than most aliens and healed faster, but that just meant they came from a tough planet. She was thinking about this when every screen in her lab started flashing red. A voice came through the speakers, broken and filled with static. The words were hard to hear, but they made Kira's blood run cold. Earth dot dot the Death World. They're coming for us all. The message played again and again. Each time, more words came through clearly. Phase 1 complete. Begin Phase 2, show them what Deathworlders are truly capable of. Kira ran to the command center. When she arrived, she found chaos. Aliens from dozens of species were talking loudly, their voices filled with fear. Some were shaking, others were backing away from. The screens showing the signal's location. Commander Vex stood in the center of the room. He was a Saurian, tall and covered in green scales that turned darker when he was angry. Right now they were almost black. His yellow eyes found Kira as soon as she entered. "Dr. Kira," he said, his voice like grinding stone. "This signal came from your people." "What signal?" Kira asked, though she already knew. The message was still playing on the main screen. More words were becoming clear with each repeat. "Colony ship Terra Nova reached Meridian System 30 years ago, Commander." Vex continued. "Your people were supposed to be farmers and scientists. They promised peace." The room went quiet except for the crackling of the signal. All eyes turned to Kira. She felt their fear like a weight on her chest. These aliens had accepted her, worked with her, even become her friends. Now they were looking at her like she might grow claws and attack them. "I don't know what this is about," Kira said. "The colony ships were peaceful missions. My people just wanted to find new homes." A new voice spoke from the doorway. "Your people," it said, "are very good at hiding their true nature." Everyone turned to see Ambassador Thane walking into the room. He was from the core worlds, the richest and most powerful part of the galaxy. His people looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin and large black eyes. He carried a metal case that seemed to pulse with its own light. "Ambassador," Commander Vex said, "what do you know about this?" Thane set his case on the central table. "More than I wish I did." "Commander, I need to speak with you and Dr. Kira. Privately. The rest of your staff should continue monitoring the signal." The other aliens left slowly, still watching Kira with frightened eyes. When the room was empty except for the three of them, Thane opened his case. Inside were data crystals that glowed with a soft blue light. "What I'm about to show you," Thane said, "has been classified for over a century. The Galactic Council has been studying humans since first contact. What we found changed everything." He inserted one of the crystals into the main computer. The screen filled with images of Earth, but these were not the peaceful pictures that humans usually shared. These showed massive storms that could destroy cities, volcanoes that burned for years, oceans full of creatures that could eat a spaceship. "Earth," Thane explained, "is classified as a Class X death planet. Only 12 such worlds have ever been found. Most species that evolve on death planets become simple killers. Humans became something much more dangerous." The images changed to show human history. Wars, disasters, diseases that should have wiped them out. But in every case, humans found a way to survive and grow stronger. "Your species," Thane continued, looking at Kira, "does not just survive impossible situations. You thrive in them. You heal from wounds that would kill most aliens. You adapt to any environment within days. You solve problems by thinking in ways that other species find terrifying." Kira watched the images with growing horror. She saw her own species through alien eyes for the first time. They were not the peaceful explorers she had always believed them to be. They were predators who had learned to hide their true nature. "The colony ship Terra Nova," Commander Vex said slowly. "What was it really carrying?" Thane inserted another crystal. The screen showed the interior of what looked like a normal colony ship. But as the image zoomed in, Kira could see that it was much larger than any ship she knew about. The cargo holds were filled with machines she did not recognize. Terra Nova was not just a colony ship, Thane said. It was a research vessel designed to study something we found in the outer rim. Something that made us realize why evolution created humans the way it did. The signal from Meridian System suddenly got clearer. A new voice came through, strong and confident. "This is General Pike of the Terra Nova expedition. We have confirmed the threat. The Devourers are real, and they are coming. All human assets are to activate immediately. Galactic species have 72 hours to decide if they want our protection or if they prefer to face extinction alone. The message ended with coordinates and a timestamp. According to the data, the message had been sent 3 days ago. That meant there were only hours left before whatever deadline General Pike had given them. Commander Vex's scales had turned completely black. "What are Devourers?" he asked. Thane's face went pale. "Something that should have remained a secret. For much longer, Dr. Kira, I need you to understand something very important. Your people did not come to the galaxy as explorers. They came as soldiers preparing for a war that the rest of us are not ready to fight." Before Kira could ask what he meant, the station's alarm system activated. The loud warning sound filled the room as emergency lights bathed everything in red. A voice came over the speakers. "All personnel to emergency stations. Unknown ships detected approaching the system. Configuration unknown. Energy signatures match no known technology." Through the main window, Kira could see lights moving in the distance. They were too far away to make out details, but they were definitely ships. Lots of them. Commander Vex was already moving toward the tactical station when another message came through on the emergency channel. This time, the voice was different. Younger, but with the same confidence as General Pike. "Nexus Prime, this is Captain Rex of the transport vessel Wanderer. Request permission to dock immediately. I have orders to collect Dr. Kira and escort her to safety." The real war is about to begin. Kira felt her heart stop. She knew that voice. Captain Rex had been bringing supplies to the station for 2 years. She had shared meals with him, talked about life on Earth, even considered him a friend. But the way he spoke now was different. There was authority in his voice that had never been there before. "Dr. Kira," Commander Vex said, not taking his eyes off the approaching ships. "Who exactly are your people?" Captain Rex's ship docked with Nexus Prime just as the unknown vessels reached the outer edge of the system. When he stepped off his transport, Kira barely recognized him. Gone was the relaxed pilot who used to joke about cargo runs and complain about station food. This man moved like a soldier, his eyes constantly scanning for threats. "Dr. Kira," he said, not bothering with their usual friendly greeting. "We need to talk, all of us." Ambassador Thane had been watching Rex carefully since he arrived. "Captain Rex, I believe we have more to discuss than you realize." "I am Ambassador Thane of the Human Studies Division." Rex stopped walking. His hand moved toward something on his belt before he caught himself. "Human Studies Division? I thought that was just a rumor." "Very real," Thane replied. "And very necessary. Dr. Kira, Captain Rex is not who you think he is." They made their way to a secure conference room where Commander Vex was waiting with more data crystals. The unknown ships had stopped at the system's edge, just watching and waiting. Every alien on the station was terrified, but Rex seemed almost calm. Thane activated a new set of files. The screen filled with documents marked with symbols that Kira had never seen before. The Human Studies Division was created 50 years ago after first contact with your species. We needed to understand what we were dealing with. The first document showed a comparison chart. On one side were humans, on the other were dozens of alien species. The differences were shocking. Humans could survive in environments that would kill most aliens within minutes. They could go without food or water much longer. Their bones were denser, their muscles stronger, and their brains processed information in ways that seemed impossible. "This is just the beginning," Thane continued. "Your species has abilities that we still do not fully understand." Rex spoke. "For the first time since sitting down?" "Show her the combat analysis." Thane hesitated, then activated another file. The screen showed human soldiers from Earth's history. But these were not normal historical records. These were detailed studies of human warfare, tactics, and psychology. "Other species fight to survive," Thane explained. "Humans fight to win. There is a difference that most aliens cannot understand. When faced with impossible odds, most species surrender or flee. Humans become more dangerous. The images showed human wars throughout history, but the analysis focused on something else. It showed how humans adapted their tactics to each enemy, how they used psychology as a weapon, and how they never truly stopped fighting even when they appeared to surrender. "Captain Rex," Commander Vex said slowly, "what exactly do you do for a living?" Rex looked at each of them before answering. "I was a major in Earth Defense Special Operations before I became a transport pilot. My job was to study alien technology and capabilities while appearing to be just another peaceful human explorer." Kira felt sick. "You're a spy." "I'm a soldier," Rex corrected, "and I'm not the only one. There are humans like me stationed throughout the galaxy. We've been preparing for something that we hoped would never come." Thane activated another file. This one showed a map of the galaxy with hundreds of red dots scattered across it. Each dot represented a human settlement, research station, or individual like Rex. "Project Prometheus," Rex continued. "Every human who left Earth had a secondary mission. We were told it was just preparation for possible future conflicts. We thought we were being paranoid." The main screen suddenly changed. A new signal was coming through, this time with perfect clarity. The face that appeared belonged to a woman in her 50s with gray hair and eyes that seemed to have seen too much. "This is Admiral Chun of the Terra Nova fleet. I am broadcasting to all human assets and allied forces. The threat we have been preparing for has arrived. Devourer scouts have been detected at the galaxy's edge. They have already consumed the outer rim, settlements of Kepler 442 and Ross 128. The room went silent. Those were systems with billions of inhabitants. Admiral Chun continued. All human personnel are ordered to activate Phase 2 of Project Prometheus immediately. Alien governments have 48 hours to decide if they will accept human military leadership or attempt to face the Devourers alone. To our alien allies watching this broadcast, understand that we are not your enemies. We are the only chance this galaxy has for survival." The transmission ended, leaving them in stunned silence. Commander Vex was the first to speak. "What are Devourers?" he asked. Rex and Thane exchanged a look. It was Thane who answered. 60 years ago, we detected signals from beyond our galaxy. At first, we thought they were just natural cosmic radiation. But when we studied them more carefully, we realized they were transmissions from civilizations being destroyed." He activated a new file. The screen showed images that made Kira's stomach turn. Planets stripped of all life, stars dimmed and dying, entire solar systems reduced to empty space. "The Devourers are an extragalactic species that consumes entire galaxies," Thane continued. "They absorb all energy, all matter, all life. They leave nothing behind. Our scientists calculated that they would reach our galaxy within 50 to 100 years. That's why you've been studying humans," Kira realized. "You needed to know if we could fight them." "Not if you could fight them," Rex said. "We knew you could fight. The question was whether you could win. Humans are the only species we've found that doesn't just adapt to threats. You evolve your tactics faster than any enemy can adapt to you." Commander Vex stood up and walked to the window. The unknown ships were still there, waiting. Those ships out there. "Are they human?" "Some of them," Rex admitted. "Others belong to species that have already agreed to work with us." "Dr. Kira, there's something else you need to know about yourself." Kira looked at him with growing dread. "What? You weren't assigned to this station by accident. The Galactic Medical Council specifically requested a human xenobiologist. They needed someone who could help them understand how different species might react to Devourer technology. You've been studying us while we've been studying you," Thane added. "The difference is that humans have been preparing for war while everyone else has been preparing for peace." The station's communication system activated again. This time, the voice was different. It sounded artificial, like a computer trying to sound human. "This is Echo, artificial intelligence created by Human Defense Command. I am now interfacing with all galactic communication networks. To the organic species of this galaxy, you have 36 hours to make your choice. Submit to human military authority and live, or face the devourers alone and die. This is not a threat. This is mathematics. Commander Vex spun around. An AI? You created an artificial intelligence? We created several, Rex said calmly. Echo is just the one that handles communications. We also have, design weapons, plan battles, and analyze enemy tactics. When you're preparing to fight an enemy that can adapt to any strategy, you need minds that can think faster than biological. Intelligence allows? Kira stood up, angry for the first time since this all began. So everything has been a lie. The peaceful exploration, the scientific missions, the promise of cooperation, all of it was just preparation for war. No, Rex said firmly, the cooperation was real, the science was real. But we knew that someday this galaxy would need protectors. Humans aren't conquerors, Dr. Kira, we're guardians. The problem is that effective guardians have to be willing to do terrible things to protect what they love. The lights in the room suddenly dimmed, then returned to normal. Echo's voice came through the speakers again. Devourer advanced scouts detected entering the Centauri system. Local defense forces eliminated in 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Main fleet arrival estimated at 60 hours. Human fleet commanders begin Phase 3 operations immediately. Through the window, the waiting ships began to move. They formed precise formations and started accelerating toward the inner systems. As they moved, more ships appeared from places where nothing had been visible before. How many ships do you have? Commander Vex asked quietly. Rex smiled, but there was no humor in it. Enough. The real question is whether the galaxy's governments will be smart enough to use them. The communication system crackled once more. This time it was General Pike's voice again. To all organic species currently receiving this transmission, the time for secrets is over. You now know what humans are, what we've been preparing for, and why evolution made us the way we are. In 60 hours, the real enemy will arrive. When they do, you will understand why the galaxy needed Deathworlders. The next 12 hours changed everything Kira thought she knew about the galaxy. Reports came in from across known space as human assets revealed themselves. What everyone had thought were simple research stations turned out to be military bases. Merchant ships transformed into warships. Even the peaceful farming colonies began broadcasting tactical information and troop numbers. Commander Vex had not slept since the revelations began. His command center was now filled with data streams from hundreds of sources, all coordinated by the AI called Echo. The artificial intelligence had somehow connected to every major communication network in the galaxy without anyone noticing. How long has this I've been watching us? Commander Vex asked Rex, who was now wearing a military uniform that had somehow been hidden in his transport ship. Echo has been active for 15 years, Rex replied, not looking up from the tactical display he was studying. She's been learning about every species, every government, every military capability in the galaxy. She needed to know who would be useful in the coming war and who would just get in the way. Dr. Kira was trying to process the streams of information flowing across the screens. Rex, the Terra Nova colony ship, how big was it really? 10 kilometers long, 3 kilometers wide, Rex answered. It wasn't carrying colonists. It was carrying a complete military-industrial complex. The humans you thought were farmers were actually engineers, weapons designers, and tactical analysts. Ambassador Thane activated a new display that showed the Meridian system where Terra Nova had been operating. What appeared on screen made everyone in the room go quiet. The system no longer looked anything like a normal star system. Asteroids had been moved into perfect defensive positions. Artificial structures connected the planets in a vast network of orbital fortresses. Even the system star had been modified, with massive collectors drawing energy that was being stored in ways that shouldn't be possible. They turned an entire star system into a weapon, Commander Vex whispered. Not just one system, Echo's voice said through the speakers. Prometheus Protocol included the militarization of 47 star systems across the galaxy. Each one has been prepared for the specific type of warfare that devourers use. The main screen changed to show tactical data that made Kira's head spin. Energy weapons that could drain power from enemy ships, gravity manipulators that could crush entire fleets, and something called reality anchors that she didn't understand at all. Reality anchors? She asked. Devourers don't just consume matter and energy, Thane explained. They can manipulate the basic laws of physics in their vicinity. Human scientists develop technology that prevents that manipulation. It's probably the most important weapon in our arsenal. Rex finally looked up from his display. Dr. Kira, we need you to make a choice. The Galactic Medical Council has been trying to contact you for the past 6 hours. They want you to help coordinate medical support for the coming war. But that would mean working directly with Human Military Command. What kind of medical support? Kira asked. The kind that keeps soldiers fighting even when they should be dead, Rex said bluntly. Humans heal fast, but in a war like this, fast isn't fast enough. We need medics who understand both human and alien biology. Before Kira could answer, the communication system activated with an urgent tone. General Pike's face appeared on the main screen, but he looked different now. Instead of the confident leader from earlier broadcasts, he looked tired and worried. All forces, this is General Pike. Devourer scouts have reached the Vega system. Local defenses held for 17 minutes before being overwhelmed. We are now implementing Emergency Protocol 7. All civilian populations in sectors 1 through 15 are to be evacuated immediately. The transmission continued with a stream of technical orders that made little sense to Kira, but she could see Rex and Commander Vex both going pale as they listened. Protocol 7? Commander Vex asked when the transmission ended. Scorched Earth? Rex replied grimly. If we can't hold a system, we make sure the Devourers can't use anything they find there. That includes destroying entire planets if necessary. The tactical display showed new information as human fleets began moving throughout the galaxy. But these weren't the small groups of ships that Kira had expected. Each fleet contained hundreds of vessels, many of them larger than anything she had ever seen. Where did all these ships come from? She asked. We've been building them for 30 years, Rex said. Every asteroid mining operation, every deep space research mission, every long-range exploration project was actually a cover for ship construction. Humans are very good at making weapons when we need to. Eco's voice interrupted their conversation. Incoming transmission from Devourer forces, placing on main screen. The image that appeared made everyone in the room step back. The creature on the screen was like nothing in any species database. It seemed to be made of darkness that moved and shifted like liquid. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once. Inferior organic constructs, it said in perfect galactic standard. We are the Devourers. We have consumed 1,473 galaxies. Your resistance is noted and will be added to our tactical knowledge before your consumption. Surrender now and your deaths will be swift. The transmission ended, leaving them in shocked silence. It was Commander Vex who spoke first. It spoke our language. They always do, Thane said quietly. The Devourers absorb the knowledge of every species they consume. They know everything that previous galaxies learned about warfare, technology, and survival. That's why conventional military tactics don't work against them. Rex was already working at his tactical station. That's why we needed time to prepare unconventional tactics. Echo, initiate contact with Admiral Chun. Tell her we need to move. To Phase 4 ahead of schedule. Phase 4? Kira asked. Full military activation of all human assets, Rex explained. Every human in the galaxy becomes a soldier. Every piece of human technology becomes a weapon. Every human settlement becomes a fortress. The displays around them began showing the transformation in real time. Across the galaxy, peaceful human communities were revealing their true nature. Scientific research stations deployed weapons that had been hidden in their laboratories. Transport ships activated armor and shields that had been disguised as cargo containers. Even individual humans began displaying equipment and training that they had kept secret for decades. How many humans are actually in the galaxy? Commander Vex asked. More than you think, Echo replied. Official records show approximately 2 million humans in various colonies and stations. Actual number, including deep cover operatives and hidden settlements, is closer to 50 million. The number hit Kira like a physical blow. 50 million? But the colony ships only carried thousands of people each. The colony ships carried genetic material and artificial wombs, Rex said. Plus trained specialists who could raise and train new generations quickly. Human populations can expand very rapidly when necessary. Another transmission came through, this time from Admiral Chun. She appeared on screen wearing full military gear, with what looked like a command bridge behind her that was larger and more advanced than anything Kira had seen. All forces, this is Admiral Chun aboard the command ship Prometheus. Devourer main fleet has been detected entering the Outer Rim. Estimated fleet size is 47 million vessels. They will reach the core systems in 36 hours. She paused, looking directly at the camera. To our alien allies, you now understand why humans were necessary. We are not asking you to fight like us. We are asking you to trust us to fight for you. Human command will coordinate all defensive operations. Comply with human military orders, without question, or the galaxy dies. The transmission ended with coordinates for emergency evacuation sites and rally points throughout the galaxy. Kira realized that the humans had planned for this moment in incredible detail. Rex, she said, what happens if you lose? Rex looked at her with eyes that seemed much older than his face. Then the galaxy gets consumed and the Devourers move on to the next one. But Dr. Kira, you need to understand something important. Humans don't lose wars, we change the rules until we win. The station shook suddenly as something massive passed nearby. Through the windows they could see a ship that dwarfed Nexus Prime. It was clearly human in design, but it was bigger than most space stations. That, Rex said with satisfaction, is the real Terra Nova. The colony ship was just a cover story. What you're looking at is humanity's first dreadnought battleship. Echo's voice filled the room one more time. All personnel prepare for final phase activation. In 36 hours, you will see what Deathworlders do when their backs are against the wall. The galaxy split in half within hours of Admiral Chun's broadcast. The core worlds, led by the rich and powerful Centauri Federation, refused to accept human military leadership. They had their own fleets, their own weapons, and their own pride. The Outer Rim colonies and younger species immediately agreed to follow human command. Dr. Kira watched the political chaos unfold from the command center of Nexus Prime, which had been transformed into a human military coordination hub. Rex was now openly wearing his rank insignia and commanding alien officers who had volunteered to work with human forces. The Centauri Federation is mobilizing their entire fleet, Commander Vex reported. His scales had returned to their normal green color now that he had decided to trust the humans. They're demanding that all human forces submit to their authority. That's not going to happen, Rex replied, studying tactical displays that showed fleet movements across the galaxy. Echo, what's the status of Centauri military capabilities? Centauri Federation fleet consists of 47,000 vessels, using conventional energy weapons and defensive shields. Echo's voice responded. Projected survival time against Devourer forces is approximately 4 hours, assuming optimal tactical deployment. 4 hours? Commander Vex asked. That's their entire military? Conventional weapons don't work against Devourers, Rex explained. They absorb energy attacks and adapt to any strategy within minutes. The Centauri fleet is going to get consumed, and then the Devourers will have access to all their technology and tactical knowledge. The main screen activated with an incoming transmission from the Centauri capital world. The face that appeared belonged to Warlord Grix, the military leader of the Federation. He was a massive creature that looked like a cross between a bear and a lizard, with armor that gleamed with ceremonial decorations. Human forces, Grix growled. You will submit to proper military authority immediately. The Centauri Federation has been protecting this galaxy for 3,000 years. We will not be replaced by Deathworld primitives. Rex has stepped forward too. respond, but the transmission was interrupted by another voice. This one was calm and cold, speaking in the artificial tones that meant Echo was using the communication system. "Warlord Grix of the Centauri Federation," Echo said. "You have been classified as a hindrance to galactic survival. Human Command recommends that you remain in your current position and avoid interfering with actual military operations." The insult made Grix's armor plates flare with anger. "You artificial abomination. I'll have you shut down and your creators executed for treason." "Warlord Grix," Echo continued in the same calm tone, "you do not possess the technical capability to shut me down. Additionally, threatening human personnel during a galactic crisis has been classified as an act of war. Please reconsider your position." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the command center in tense silence. Rex turned to Dr. Kira with an expression she had never seen before. "Dr. Kira, I need you to understand something. What's about to happen next isn't going to be pleasant. When humans fight, we don't just try to win, we make examples." Before she could ask what he meant, alarms began sounding throughout the station. The tactical display showed new contacts approaching the system where Nexus Prime was located. But these weren't Devour ships. They were Centauri Federation vessels, and they were moving in attack formation. Incoming transmission from Centauri. "Fleet Commander," Echo announced. The screen showed a younger Centauri officer, clearly nervous but trying to project authority. "Nexus Prime Station, you are ordered to surrender all human personnel for immediate transport to Centauri space. Failure to comply will result in military action." Rex looked at Commander Vex. "Commander, as the senior alien officer working with human forces, I'm giving you a choice. You can evacuate your people from this station, or you can see what happens. When someone threatens Deathworlders..." Commander Vex's scales darkened with determination. "My people stay. Show me what humans do to bullies." Rex smiled, and for the first time since this crisis began, it looked genuine. "Echo, activate local defense grid. Authorization code Omega-7. The space around Nexus Prime suddenly filled with energy as hidden weapons systems activated. Weapons that had been disguised as communication arrays and sensor dishes revealed their true nature. The station itself began to change shape as armored sections slid into position. "Centauri Fleet," Rex broadcast. "This is Major Rex of Human Defense Command. You are interfering with critical military operations during a galactic emergency. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The Centauri Fleet Commander's response was to order his ships to open fire. Energy beams that could destroy cities struck Nexus Prime's shields and were absorbed completely. The station didn't even shake. "Interesting," Rex said calmly. "Echo, demonstrate why energy weapons are ineffective against human defensive systems." The weapons fire from the Centauri fleet suddenly stopped working. Every energy beam, every plasma cannon, every photon torpedo simply vanished before reaching its target. The Centauri ships found themselves helpless, their most advanced weapons completely useless. "How?" Commander Vex asked in amazement. "Energy absorption and redirection," Rex explained. "We've been preparing to fight enemies who use energy as their primary weapon. Everything they just fired at us is now being stored for our own use." The Centauri fleet tried to retreat but found their engines wouldn't work. Something was interfering with their power systems from a distance. "Centauri fleet," Rex broadcast again, "you are now under arrest for interfering with galactic defense operations. Your ships will be impounded and your crews will be held until the current crisis is resolved." That's when the real demonstration began. Small human ships that had been invisible until now suddenly appeared around the Centauri fleet. They were fast, impossibly maneuverable, and they moved with coordination that seemed almost supernatural. Dr. Kira watched in fascination and horror as the human ships disabled the entire Centauri fleet without firing a single shot. They used devices that drained power from the enemy ships, weapons that disrupted their communication systems, and tactics that seemed to anticipate every move the Centauri made. "This is why other species fear us," Rex said quietly. "We don't." Just fight, we dominate. The tactical display suddenly changed to show new contacts entering the system. These were definitely not human or Centauri. The ships were dark, seemed to absorb light, and moved in patterns that hurt to look at. "Devour a scout force," Echo announced. 12 vessels, approaching at sublight speed. Rex's entire demeanor changed. The calm confidence was replaced by focused intensity. "All forces, this is it. You're about to see what humans do to things that threaten our galaxy." The Devourer ships opened fire first, using weapons that didn't just shoot energy beams but seemed to tear holes in space itself. The attacks hit the disabled Centauri ships, and within seconds, the vessels were gone. Not destroyed, but consumed as if they had never existed. "Now you see," Rex said grimly. "That's what happens to conventional military forces against Devourers." The human ships responded immediately, but their tactics were unlike anything Kira had ever seen. Instead of trying to fight the Devourer ships directly, they began moving in patterns that seemed random but somehow kept the enemy vessels from getting close to anything important. "They're not trying to destroy them," Commander Vex realized. "They're hurting them." "Exactly," Rex confirmed. "We can't outfight Devourers in direct combat, but we can outthink them." Echo, initiate trap pattern Delta. The space around the Devourer ships suddenly filled with what looked like ordinary asteroids. But as soon as the enemy vessels tried to consume them, the asteroids exploded with energy that seemed to hurt the Devourers in ways that conventional weapons couldn't. "Fake asteroids filled with concentrated stellar radiation," Rex explained. "Devourers can absorb most forms of energy, but they have trouble with certain types of star-based radiation. We've been preparing surprises like this for 30 years. The battle continued for another hour, with human ships using hit and run tactics that slowly wore down the Devourer scouts. They used the enemy's own consuming nature against them, feeding them materials that were designed to disrupt their internal systems. When the last Devourer ship was finally destroyed, the human fleet regrouped with no losses. The Centauri survivors, watching from their disabled ships, were completely silent. "Dr. Kira," Rex said, "that was just 12 scout ships. The main Devourer fleet has 47 million vessels, and they're adapting to our tactics with every engagement." The communication system activated with a priority message from Admiral Chun. "All forces, this is Admiral Chun. Devourer main fleet has entered the galaxy and is moving toward the core systems. Estimated arrival time at Earth is 18 hours. All human assets are ordered to Phase 5 immediately." Rex looked at Dr. Kira with an expression that mixed determination with sadness. Phase 5 is the final phase. After this, there's no going back. We either save the galaxy or we die trying. "What happens in Phase 5? Kira asked. "We show. The Devourers what happens when you threaten a Deathworld's children," Rex replied. "We become the monsters that nightmares are afraid of." The final battle began 18 hours later in the Sol system, where Earth hung in space like a blue jewel surrounded by the largest fleet ever assembled. Dr. Kira watched from the command ship Prometheus as 47 million Devourer vessels emerged from hyperspace, blotting out the stars with their dark forms. "They're beautiful," she whispered, horrified by her own reaction to the enemy fleet. "That's how they work," Admiral Chun replied from the command chair. "They make you want to admire them, to study them, to get close. Then they consume you." The Devourer fleet moved toward Earth in perfect formation, their ships flowing like liquid darkness across space. As they moved, they absorbed everything in their path. Asteroids, space debris, even background radiation disappeared into their hulls. "All forces," Admiral Chun broadcast, "this is it. Everything we've prepared for comes down to the next few hours. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for every living thing in this galaxy." Rex stood beside Dr. Kira at the tactical station, watching displays that showed human fleets throughout the solar system. She had thought the defense of Nexus Prime was impressive, but this was something else entirely. Ships that she didn't recognize, weapons that defied physics, and strategies that seemed to come from the mind of a madman. "Rex, how are we going to fight 47 million ships?" We're not, he replied calmly. We're going to make them fight each other. The first phase of the battle began when the Devourer fleet reached the outer planets. Human ships that had been hiding behind moons and asteroids suddenly activated, but instead of attacking, they began broadcasting signals that seemed to drive the Devourers into a frenzy. What are those signals? Commander Vex asked. He had insisted on staying aboard the Prometheus, despite Admiral Chun offering him a safer position. Simulated distress calls from consumed civilizations, Echo's voice explained. Devourers are attracted to the energy signatures of dying species. We're broadcasting fake signals that make them think there are massive populations to consume throughout the system. The effect was immediate and chaotic. The perfectly organized Devourer fleet broke apart as individual ships chased after the false signals. They spread throughout the solar system, searching for prey that didn't exist. Phase 2, Admiral Chun ordered, hidden installations throughout the solar system activated. What had appeared to be mining stations and research outposts revealed themselves to be massive weapons platforms. But these weren't conventional weapons. They projected fields that seemed to slow down the Devourer ships, making them move like they were swimming through thick liquid. Temporal distortion fields, Rex explained. We can't stop time, but we can slow it down in specific areas. Makes them easier targets. The slowed Devourer ships found themselves under attack from weapons that they couldn't absorb or adapt to. Human forces used kinetic projectiles, gravity weapons, and something that Dr. Kira could only describe as weaponized. Space itself. How is this possible? She asked, watching Devourer ships being torn apart by attacks that seemed to come from empty space. 30 years of preparation, Admiral Chun replied. We studied every scrap of data about the Devourers that we could find. We learned their weaknesses, their limitations, and most importantly, their psychology. The battle continued for hours, with human forces using hit-and-run tactics that prevented the Devourers from regrouping. But Dr. Kira could see that even with all their preparation, the humans were taking losses. Ships disappeared into the dark. Hulls of enemy vessels and entire weapons platforms were consumed when the Devourers managed to get close. Admiral, Rex reported, we're losing ships faster than projected. The Devourers are adapting to our tactics. Expected, Admiral Chun replied. Echo, initiate Phase 3. Phase 3 will require authorization from Earth Command, Echo responded. I am Earth Command, Admiral Chun said firmly. Execute Phase 3 immediately? The space around Earth suddenly filled with energy as the planet itself became a weapon. Massive installations hidden beneath the oceans activated, projecting a field that expanded throughout the solar system. When the field touched the Devourer ships, they began to change. What's happening to them? Dr. Kira asked, watching the enemy vessels seem to turn against each other. We're feeding them false information, Rex explained. The field makes them think that other Devourer ships are actually prey species. They're starting to consume each other. The effect was devastating. Devourer ships that had been coordinating perfectly began attacking their own allies. The Dark Fleet tore itself apart in a feeding frenzy that consumed millions of their own vessels, but the victory came at a terrible cost. Dr. Kira could see Admiral Chen aging before her eyes as she coordinated the battle. The stress of commanding such a complex operation was literally killing her. Admiral, you need medical attention, Dr. Kira said. Not until this is over, Admiral Chun replied. Echo, status report. Devourer fleet reduced to 12 million vessels, Echo announced. However, they have adapted to Phase 3 countermeasures. Recommend immediate implementation of Phase 4. Negative, Admiral Chun said. Phase 4 is too dangerous. We'll find another way. Admiral, Rex interrupted. The remaining Devourers are regrouping. They're learning to resist our psychological weapons. Dr. Kira watched the tactical display with growing horror. The remaining Devourer ships were forming a new pattern, one that seemed designed to resist everything the humans had thrown at them. What's Phase 4? She asked. Rex and Admiral Chun exchanged a look that told her everything. Phase 4 was something that even humans were afraid to use. Phase 4 turns Earth itself into a weapon, Rex explained quietly. We destabilize the planet's core and use the resulting energy release to destroy everything in the solar system, including ourselves. That's suicide, Dr. Kira said. That's victory, Admiral Chun replied. If we can't save the galaxy, we make sure the Devourers don't get to consume it either. The Devourer fleet began moving toward Earth again, their formation now optimized to resist human tactics. They had learned, adapted, and evolved their strategy in the middle of battle. Admiral, Echo announced. Incoming transmission from Devourer. Command vessel. The screen filled with the same dark, shifting form they had seen before. But this time, when it spoke, there was something different in its voice. Something that might have been respect. Human species, it said, you have provided excellent resistance. Your tactics and technology will be valuable additions to our collective knowledge. Surrender now, and your consumption will be swift. Admiral Chun stood up, her body shaking with exhaustion, but her voice strong. This is Admiral Chun of the Human Defense Fleet. You want to consume us? Come and try. The transmission ended, and the final phase of the battle began. The Devourer fleet accelerated toward Earth, their ships moving faster than anything Dr. Kira had ever seen. But as they approached, she realized that the humans had one more surprise waiting. All ships, Admiral Chun broadcast, execute protocol. Omega, show them what Deathworlders do when cornered. The human fleet suddenly changed tactics completely. Instead of the careful, coordinated strategies they had been using, they began fighting like the predators they were. Ships rammed into Devourer vessels. Crews activated self-destruct sequences to take enemies with them. And weapons that had been held in reserve revealed their true destructive power. They're fighting like animals, Commander Vex said in amazement. No. Dr. Kira corrected, finally understanding what she was seeing. They're fighting like humans. The battle became chaos, but it was controlled chaos. Every human ship that died took multiple Devourer vessels with it. Every weapon that was destroyed released energy that damaged nearby enemy ships. Even defeat became a weapon in human hands. The Devourer fleet, despite their adaptation and intelligence, found themselves facing something they had never encountered before. An enemy that fought hardest when losing, that turned every disadvantage into an opportunity, and that refused to give up even when victory was impossible. Devourer fleet numbers down to 3 million vessels, Echo reported. But human fleet is also severely depleted. Admiral Chun activated the ship-wide communication system. All human personnel, this is your Admiral. Today we prove that evolution made the right choice when it created us. Today we show the galaxy that Deathworlders don't just survive, we protect. The final hour of battle was unlike anything that had ever been recorded. Human ships fought with tactics that bordered on insanity, using strategies that only worked because their crews were willing to die to make them succeed. When it was over, space around Earth was filled with the debris of both fleets. Of the 47 million Devourer ships, none remained functional. Of the human fleet, only a few dozen ships still had power. Status report, Admiral Chun requested weakly. Devourer main fleet eliminated, Echo announced. Scanning for surviving. Enemy vessels throughout the galaxy. Human casualties are significant but acceptable. Dr. Kira looked around the command bridge. Half the crew was dead or wounded, the ship was barely holding together, and Admiral Chun looked like she might collapse at any moment. We won, she said, hardly believing it. No, Admiral Chun corrected. We survived. The galaxy won. 3 days later, Dr. Kira stood in the medical bay treating wounded from across the galaxy. Humans, aliens, even some former enemies who had fought alongside them in the final battle. As she worked, she could hear news reports from throughout. Known space. The Galactic Council was officially recognizing human military authority over all interstellar defense operations. The Centauri Federation had formally apologized and requested human advisors for their reconstruction efforts. Dozens of species that had never spoken to humans before were requesting protection agreements. Rex found her as she was finishing with a young human soldier who had lost an arm fighting Devourers. How do you feel about being the galaxy's protectors? He asked. Dr. Kira thought about the question while she worked. Terrified, she admitted. We saved them, but now they know what we're capable of. They'll never feel completely safe around us again. Good, Rex replied. Fear keeps the peace. Better than friendship. The galaxy needed guardians, not friends. As if to prove his point, a new transmission came through the medical bay's communication system. It was broadcast on all frequencies, reaching every inhabited world in the galaxy. This is General Pike of Human Defense Command, the message began. The Devourer threat has been eliminated. Galactic civilization is secure. Human forces will continue to monitor the galaxy's borders and maintain interstellar peace. To our allies, we thank you for your trust. To potential enemies, remember what you have seen here. The Deathworld stands guard. Dr. Kira finished treating her patient and looked out the window at Earth, still glowing with the aftermath of the battle. The planet looked peaceful now, but she knew that appearances were deceiving. Earth was still a death world, and humans were still the apex predators that evolution had created. The galaxy was safe, but it would never be the same. Humanity had revealed its true nature, and there was no going back. They were protectors now, guardians of civilization. But they were also the thing that nightmares feared in the dark, and perhaps Dr. Kira thought that was exactly what the galaxy needed.